Hello, dear digital ship friends. Welcome to our webinar of November 24th, 2020, where we are exploring new growth areas with Thuraya and its next generation satellite program. You will hear 25 minutes discussions with 3 Thuraya experts moderated by Carl Jeffrey, founding editor of Digital Ship, and about 20 minutes Q&A. So before we start, let me quickly introduce you to our guest speakers. Here with us, we have Jassem Nasser, Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer, Martyn Hopkins, Director of Global Sales, and D Souza, who is the Product Manager. All of them represent Thuraya Telecommunications Company, who is also sponsoring this webinar. We encourage you to ask questions anytime during the talks via the Q&A box. And I think we are ready to hear Carl's introduction. The word is to you, Carl.
Okay, thank you, Varda. So what we want to do today is we're going to learn more about Thuraya and what it offers the maritime industry, and also how the company is planning to develop the services and products with the next generation satellites. So you probably know the basics about Thuraya already. You probably know it's based in the United Arab Emirates, and it's got 2 geosynchronous satellites. They cover Europe, the Middle East, and North, Central, and East Africa, Asia, and Australasia. And it works with a portfolio of different products, so handheld phones you can use it with, and small data modems. So you might know that the company is planning to launch new satellites, which are going to be the Thuraya 4 next generation satellites, going to call it NGS. So what we're going to do is look more about what we can do with it and what customers are doing with it. So we'll start with an introduction to Thuraya, and we'll hear about the plans for the next generation system. That's going to be from Jassem Nasser, the Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer, who's joining us from Dubai. Then we're going to hear about how the customers are finding the most value from Thuraya and which shipping sectors. That'll be from Martyn Hopkins, who's the Director of Sales, who's joining us from Newbury in the UK. And then D Souza, the Product Manager for Maritime and Aero with Thuraya, is going to talk about specific maritime applications where Thuraya can add value. And he's also joining us from Dubai. And then Jassem is going to share some perspectives on how the usage has changed during the COVID period. And then we're going to have some questions. So please send your questions all the way through. They'll come up in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen there. And you can also see other people's questions and score other questions of what you'd like to hear the answers for. And we should have 25 minutes for going through questions. So yeah, that'll be great. So I'd like to invite Jassem now to give the opening talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you for the introduction. Let me share my screen here. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Excellent. So thanks a lot, Carl, for the introduction again. Like you said, we're based out of the UAE. Thuraya, actually, the idea was incepted in the corridors of Etisalat, who is the incumbent telecom operator in the UAE around 1994, 1995. Etisalat led the creation of Thuraya along with other telecom operators from the region in 1997 to be the first MSS project and operator from the region, and also the first satellite project for the UAE. Thuraya concept is based on handheld telephony. This was the original idea to cover the gaps of cellular networks at the time, of course, and hence the design was based on GSM technology and roaming capability with the cellular networks. We've launched so far 3 satellites. Thuraya 1 was launched in 2000, and Thuraya 2 in 2003, and Thuraya 3 satellite in 2008. Both Thuraya 2 and Thuraya 3 are functioning and are healthy and are providing the coverage that I will show in the next slide. Today, we offer much more than handheld voice service through a large portfolio of innovative products to a wide community of customers in different market segments, including government, maritime, media, energy, and NGOs. Almost 2 years ago, Yasat, the UAE satellite operator offering BSS, FSS, and HTS services. And it's 100% owned by Mubadala, the investment arm of Abu Dhabi government, acquired majority stake in Thuraya. And like you mentioned earlier, a few months back, we have announced the next generation system for Thuraya 4 NGS, which is a complete overhaul of the space, ground, and terminal segments. And I'll shed more light on Thuraya 4 NGS a bit later. The coverage of Thuraya satellite system spans around 160 countries. And through a commercial arrangement with a partner, we are able to provide also M2M service, specifically in North America region, as you can see on the map. On the right side of the slide, you will see the footprint that is enabled by a GSM roaming capability, something that is unique to Thuraya, and it's enabled with more than 400 roaming agreements. You talked about the product portfolio, Carl. So as I mentioned, we have a rich portfolio of innovative products, split between land voice, land data, maritime, aero, M2M, and modules. And the modules are, of course, there to enable the development of different products, specialized products, and to support increasing or widening the vendor base or the vendor community that we have. As you can see, there are different variants of each product line, which exist to cater to requirements from the enterprise, the government, or the consumer segments, or as it might be appropriate for other some markets, it could be catering to the lower end and the higher end of that specific market segment. I hope this gives a good brief about Thuraya, and back to you, Carl.
Okay, thank you very much, Jassem. So now we're going to hear from Martyn Hopkins, who's the Director of Sales, and he's going to explain how the customers are finding most value from Thuraya in which shipping sectors. So I'd like to welcome Martyn. Thank you. You're on mute still.
Martyn, we don't see you and we don't hear you yet.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having some technical issues here. My apologies. So
okay, no problem. We can wait a few seconds, minutes.
Yeah, let me start my video. Apologies. And
here you go. Now everything is okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Can see you.
Let me share my screen.
Perfect. Thank you.
There you go. That's better. So, okay, thank you very much. Sorry about that. So one of the things I wanted to go through today was some of the drivers and some of the things that Thuraya is doing in the maritime market around digital shipping, and what the drivers are for the changes in the industry that we are seeing. Obviously, as Jassem mentions, we don't have global coverage, so we're seeing a much more regional focus on the changes and where those changes are affecting the maritime market. So one of the things that we've seen is regulation. A lot of countries, certainly in Europe and in Asia, we're seeing a lot more regulation on how fishing is monitored, and to curb unreported fishing in areas where they're not supposed to be, some fraudulent activities that are going on in some of the fishing vessels. And these smaller fleet owners are looking more to meet the regulation to increase their profits and increase their opportunities for sale. And those authorities want to start to control more about what happens in their waters. So there's a lot more tracking and monitoring being discussed and being put on those fleet owners to provide information on. So that gives an opportunity for the owners to understand more about what's going on the vessels, whether they be small 1-2-man vessels to a larger vessel, to understand what fish are being caught, where they're being caught, and being able to report back on that to the authorities. This also gives them some ease of mind that things on the vessel are going right, and they're not being taken for fraudulent activities. There's also a demand out there to look at how the vessels are treated. So understanding what's going on with the engine systems, with the fuel monitoring, everything there can start to help the owners of the vessels and the fleets to start predict that maintenance. And rather than have a ship break down, it gives a much more opportunity for them to plan ahead and save money. And there's also the issue around crew welfare. So having these small fishing boats, they don't necessarily want a large terminal. They want something small, something low cost. That also gives the opportunity for the fishermen to be able to keep connected with their families, keep connected with the shore, and keep connected with the vessel owner to be able to have that level of communication that they probably haven't got today. So this is something that we're seeing certainly in a lot of countries where there is a drive to become more, use technology more to make the vessels safer and to track more of what they're doing. But we're also seeing this from end customers. So for instance, in the UK, we have a large food company that has put a regulation onto its suppliers to say, we want to understand where this fish was caught, when this fish was caught, how long it's been in storage, and how long it's taken to get to us before we'll actually approve the usage of it. So this is a huge thing, and this is happening not just in fishing, but also in farming industry as well. We're seeing that throughout Africa, where end customers of the vessel owners and the farmers want to see more about where that product has come from and how it's arrived. So this is something we're seeing a huge change in the industry, and technology is the only way really that they can overcome a lot of these issues. And we're already seeing digital shipping in large vessels. I'm sure most people have seen this this report that was published. You know, the Maersk fleet is a huge amount of data, and it's a huge amount of sensors. These are huge, great big ships, and this is already here. We're already coping with this, and this is something that's been in the market for some time. So this for Thuraya was not a market that we looked at and said, well, this is something we can make a huge difference in. And this is something where we can, you know, make a product that fits this market because it's already established. We were looking more at where those changes were coming in what is already a digital shipping market into smaller vessels. And there is that natural flow of technology from the bigger companies to the smaller in any industry. So where do we see growth? Well, the smaller fishing vessels like you see on the right there, these don't have big terminals. These don't have, you know, a lot of connectivity on board already today. You know, they want to understand, the fleet owners want to understand where was that fish caught and when. So a vessel can instantly report back, I've caught X number of fish, they're stored on the boat, and I caught them in this location, and that can be tagged to those fish. Another issue is the fuel efficiencies. By tracking a ship, by tracking that vessel, you can understand where the best route is and how it's being used efficiently. So the fleet owners can start to tell their vessels, this is how I want you to work, this is where I want you to go, and this is how it's going to be. We've also seen, certainly in some parts of Asia, there's a lot of fraud that goes on with fuel. So they'll fill up on fuel and then they'll remove some fuel out and then say that that's been used. So this can also be tracked. You can have sensors in the fuel tank that can understand exactly how much fuel has been put on board, and then the vessel owner can track the usage of that fuel over a period of time. As I mentioned, crew welfare, this is really important. When there is an issue on board, it needs to get back quickly, and they need to understand what's going on, and also that idea of being able to communicate with the shore into understanding when they're coming in, where the fish has been caught, how it's going to be offloaded, etc. One of the big issues we've seen is fishing in certain areas. So geofencing a fishing area for a vessel is really important now to make sure they're fishing in the right waters. There's always been issues with vessels illegally fishing. Technology today can stop that, and fleet owners can track their vessels and set them areas where they're not allowed to go or where they have to fish. And this gives into that tracking of that fleet, a fleet owner understanding much more about what's going on with his own vessels than ever before. And this is where we've seen a huge demand from fleet owners to make that fuel usage, that preventative maintenance, and the cost savings that I mentioned before. If you take Indonesia alone, there are over 100,000 fishing vessels in Indonesia. Most of them have zero technology other than perhaps a cellular phone that they use to contact the shore when they're close enough. Outside of that, there is very little connectivity that they use because they're so small. So any technology has to be small, it has to be low cost, and it has to be able to provide the fleet owner with a lot more information than they get today, and that for them to be able to present that in a way that meets the regulation and the authorities' demands. So this is where Thuraya has worked really well in understanding those needs of those fleet owners and the fishermen and the regulators in providing services and flexibility in what we do to be able to give them that information and that connectivity. So there's a digital solution, obviously. There is always something that you can create, and being a satellite operator, we're very lucky in that we cover a lot of the ocean that we do today, as well as all the land. So an example of this is where there was one country in Asia where there was a lack of regulation completely. There was none. They wanted to bring that in. There was no information on tracking. There was no information on fish catch reporting, nothing at all. They were seeing a lot more fraudulent activities and the fleet owners were seeing a loss in revenue that they couldn't connect to any specific incident that they were seeing in their fleets. There was no control over any of the fishing vessels. They could fish where they wanted, they could do what they wanted, and they'd catch when they wanted, and no one ever knew. So the fleet owners and the authorities were completely blind to what the fishermen were doing. And this was an issue that was covered with several thousand vessels. There were a number of vessels in the area, huge amount of fishing, and it was unregulated completely. So the resolution we provided was a low-cost terminal, an easy to use tracking solution that you can see on the right that can be used on a PC or an iPad or a phone. The actual fishermen themselves can use it over the link as well. So there is an option there for them to be able to see where they're supposed to be going and have communication. And we've been able to provide that real-time information to the fleet owner, where the vessel is, what the fleet is catching, what the fuel levels are they catching in the right area? All of these things are provided by a very small, low-cost terminal that goes on board a very small ship. And what we've also been able to do is enable the crew to have some connectivity back to shore. So they have a handset and a data connection that they can use, and they're able to call home, call the fleet owner, whatever. So there's a lot of communication that they had today that they never had before. And this is a huge thing, and we've seen thousands of vessels now equipped with a solution like this that's providing fleet owners with a lot more understanding of what goes on their vessels. And this is totally separate to any other communications that they have if they do have them. This keeps everything separate. There are a number of levels, so the fleet owner can see one thing, the fisherman can see another, and there's a report that they can give to the authorities. So a huge amount of information that's coming back now that was never there before. And this for us is where we see the digital shipping market changing significantly. Yes, you need digital ships on the big Maersk type tankers, etc., and carriers, but you also need this now on the smaller vessels. And this is where the likes of European regulation is coming in to drive that change. And this has been a significant thing for us in the past 2 years. We've seen more and more requests throughout not only Asia, but Africa as well, and Europe, where these types of solutions are needed for those smaller owners, for smaller fleet owners. So it's been a significant change for us in this industry. That's it for me. Back to you, Carl.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Yeah, I can see one of the advantages is that ships can have more than one independent SATCOM device, I think, because it's a relatively low cost and that gives a lot of flexibility. And yeah, it's very interesting. So thirdly, we'd like to invite Ricky D Souza, who's the product manager of Maritime and Aero with Thuraya. So he's going to give us a little bit more about specific maritime applications where Thuraya sees it can add more value. And he's also joining us from Dubai. So I'd like to welcome Ricky. Thank you. Oh, and before you start, I'd just like to draw everyone's attention to the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. You see we've got a few questions coming in now. So it'd be great if you can load up your questions there so we can discuss them afterwards. So thank you. I'll go to Ricky. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. So I will be sharing our experience about specific maritime applications and where Thuraya could add more value for our partners and their customers. So as Martyn mentioned, Thuraya has seen a tremendous growth in the fisheries segment, which needs to conform to either the Department of Fisheries or Ministry of Agriculture regulations, which is fundamentally to curb unauthorized fishing as well as illegal trading. So we have also witnessed steady growth in tracking the maritime assets, basically for national surveillance agencies such as coast guards and port authorities. So such applications can be easily served within our coverage and hence sets up Thuraya as a preferred choice not just because we have a resilient state-of-the-art network or even a hassle-free support structure, but we have made sure that we delivered on the key aspects, as Martyn mentioned, such as simplicity, being feature-rich, as well as being affordable, which is very important. So for example, we have the product which is Thuraya Marine Star. It has been a huge success in the fisheries. It provides tracking, monitoring, fish catch reporting on a single product, and delivers our globally renowned voice service as well. So the concept is very simple, but checks on all the expectations of both the regulatory bodies as well as the fishermen who need to communicate with their families with a simple to use and most importantly, an affordable solution. So such simple instances clearly sets us apart from whatever products or services are being offered in the market, making Thuraya as a preferred choice in the maritime world. So our strength will always be to deliver a reliable and quality products and connectivity services. However, we have also seen an increased requirement of delivering a tracking and monitoring software platform. And purely based on several partner requests, we will soon be launching this software platform as well, which will complement our Sea Light portfolio. And moving forward with our next generation platform, having a much higher capacity available for our customers, the applications could reach a much larger audience for an enhanced experience for higher bandwidth requiring applications such as connected offices, connected communities, enhanced tracking and monitoring, fuel monitoring, remote maintenance from various requirements from various manufacturers, and even mission critical applications for the government sector like secure communications and even surveillance operations, to mention a few. So this is further enabled by our in-house industry leading technology experts who have been instrumental in supporting even third-party solutions to be certified with Thuraya, which further complements our existing and even upcoming products and airtime services. So we have truly witnessed that our partners get the much needed alternative, and they will soon leverage even on the next generation platform with such enhanced use cases. The outcome of this would be a positive impact for each and every Thuraya customer, as we already serve over 30,000 vessels within our coverage, and we'll continue to invest in making both the government as well as commercial maritime operations a hassle-free one. And most importantly, especially now, the seafarers experience a remote home rather than just a remote office.
Well, thank you very much. So the last part in our, before we get onto the Q&A, Jassem is going to share some perspectives on how the usage has changed during the COVID-19 period. So I'd like to welcome Jassem again. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. So certainly 2020 is a special year due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and its impact is, of course, not only on the satellite industry, but the overall economy. Looking at the satellite operators, you can see them monitoring, evaluating, and trying to adapt to this fluid situation. COVID-19, like you are aware, came with its measures of lockdown, movement restrictions, leading to new concepts or themes like work from home and online learning. Thus, while some markets like aeronautical and IFC is a good example, or under maritime and maybe more related to the high end and the merchant, have been affected negatively. Other market segments observed growth, or let us call it demand for new requirements and applications. COVID-19, I think, in my view, highlighted the issue of digital divide and made it visible on a larger scale. And this is now driving requirements and the international community to basically leave no one behind. When I look at the pandemic, I see connectivity requirements from three types of users. Those whose requirements have emerged due to the movement restrictions, and an example of this can be leading to the urgent requirement for cost-effective mobile backhaul over satellite to relieve congestion. Another type of users is basically those who are combating the pandemic in the front lines, like NGOs. And a good example from our own experience is connecting ambulances in the UAE with the Thuraya X5 Touch device to help medical staff limit the growing number of coronavirus cases. The third type of user is really driven by operational efficiency, and this is something that Ricky and Martyn has highlighted. So while this is not linked to the pandemic per se, but however it got heightened with the COVID-19 situation. The general theme today is to work, monitor, manage remotely, and have less people in the field. A good use case or a good example would be the use of drones or the controlling of drones and the need to manage them beyond the line of sight. Mobility is becoming a critical area where we see strong growth across the platforms, be it land, sea, or air. And despite the current challenges, connectivity anywhere, everywhere is crucial. This includes broadband and narrowband connectivity that can enable, for example, IoT networks and devices. Broadband to consumers will see also benefit given the COVID-19 crisis. The resulting increase in the number of people working from home will accelerate the need for consumer broadband. And finally, sovereign communications is certainly becoming very critical. Governments have realized that owning a sovereign communication system is of vital importance. So this is, in a nutshell, my take on the impact of COVID-19 and how things have been in the market during this year, Carl. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I've got 5 questions we've got coming up at the moment. We've had 3 people asked about sharing the slides after the webinar. We normally put everything on YouTube, including the slides and the videos, so long as Thuraya is happy with this. Just before we get into the questions, the new generation, next generation system, Jassem, would you like to share some thoughts on what this is going to do and what new functions it's going to offer?
Sure, Carl. So we have embarked on a next generation program with an investment of more than $500 million to modernize and upgrade Thuraya's space, ground assets, as well as the product and solutions portfolio. The Thuraya 4 NGS will deliver higher capabilities and flexibility while increasing capacity and coverage across Europe, Africa, Central Asia, and the Middle East, enabling next generation mobility solutions for all customer segments, including government, enterprise, and consumers. The new capabilities will drive Thuraya's leadership across many strategic product lines, such as Maritime, IoT, data solutions, offering a wide spectrum of throughput capabilities and the highest speeds available in the market, while still reinforcing our key and strength position in the MSS voice market. The Thuraya next generation system will provide a world of opportunities to customers, service partners, our vendors, and integrators, enhancing the user experience across land, sea, and air. The key words for Thuraya 4 NGS are adaptability, reliability, security, robustness, resilience, interoperability, and solution focused. The higher capacity will certainly drive for lower cost per bit. The more flexibility or the better flexibility will allow for technology agnostic solutions and interoperability, and this helps with the convergence with the terrestrial technologies. The larger coverage, of course, offers more value for the end customers and allows us to enter into new markets. And the adaptability allows us to support existing services, existing products, and also come up with a new rich portfolio of products and solutions. One last thing that I would like to highlight is that we are enabling a new community of vendors to develop products, services, solutions, and applications. We're setting up the building blocks in terms of making available chipsets, modules, and the platforms necessary to create an enabling environment for our partners and vendors to innovate and develop solutions that are needed by the end customers. However, with the launch of the new system, you do need an initial set of products to entice the market and build up the momentum, and of course, build up the customer base. And we're making that necessary investment to have those sorts of products with the initial launch of the system. I hope I have given some useful information around Thuraya 4 NGS card. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, there's two questions asking a little bit more. So Mikhail Riken is saying he's read about a 2 megabit per second L-band service. I think you didn't mention any speeds, but I imagine this is what he's asking for. And David Turner is asking what's the expectation speed. He's saying I-band, but I think that might be an L-band.
Yeah,
So
I didn't mention any specific speeds today, but I think we mentioned it with in the different literature and announcements for Thuraya 4 NGS that we will be exceeding the 1 megabit per second throughput. We're not focusing a lot on the high throughput, but we're focusing a lot on the capability of the system to offer a wide spectrum of throughput capabilities. You will find users who want 20 kilobits, and there are users who want 100 kilobits, and there are the users who want half a megabit or 1 megabit sort of throughput. And we'll cater to all of those customers.
And will the existing equipment work with it, or will people need to buy new equipment?
No, definitely. So the existing equipment and the existing platforms will continue to work over Thuraya 4 NGS, but as part of the modernization and upgrade of the ground network, we're also coming up with new platforms and new products to enable the customers benefit from the new features and the new capabilities of the system.
Oh, that's great. And in terms of how your products compare with others, I was quite surprised to hear about the ambulances, because they normally would use something like GSM, but I don't know if you're competitive with GSM. I don't know how far you'd like to explain how you see Thuraya comparing with Iridium and services like this, or maybe that's something you wouldn't want to say.
Maybe I'll just shed the light on the ambulances example, and then maybe I leave it to Ricky to maybe highlight about the advantages of Thuraya's maritime products versus the competition. So the ambulances example is really related to the use of the X5 Touch, which is the Thuraya satellite smartphone working on an Android operating system. And no, we're not competing with GSM, but we're complementary to the cellular service and the cellular network. So when the ambulances go in areas where the cellular network is sort of unreliable or is not available, then the customer will use the same smartphone application over Thuraya's X5 Touch device, connecting through the satellite. So maintaining the same sort of application, but using it with Thuraya satellite connectivity and device. And that enables them to have a seamless service between cellular and satellite networks.
Okay, we had the last webinar we did was on 5G for maritime, and there was a lot of talk about people switching from 4G and 5G to satellite depending on what's available. So it sounds like with yours, you can do it all with one device, I think, is it? The same device will talk through both GSM and talk to Thuraya satellites.
Correct. So adding on to what Jassem was saying, I mean, if you look at one of the major drivers that eventually sets us apart is that we deliver a hassle-free customer experience through our entire operational cycle for a customer. So Thuraya offers both hardware and airtime services, which is again unique, and has an in-house round-the-clock support for both. So by this, we ensure achieving quick turnaround times for our customers, which is very important in our maritime ecosystem. So another unique advantage is what Jassem mentioned is having the Mno roaming capabilities, which is over the Thuraya network, which is if in case you put, for example, Vodafone or O2 SIM card in any of the Maritime or any of the Thuraya terminals for voice, you could have a local number. So that's again enabled from 400 plus global roaming agreements that Thuraya has with the rest of the MNOs. Our existing customers are also taking advantage of the flexibility offered. Martyn did touch upon that, but just to elaborate on that, our partners and of course their customers has very simple access to easy monthly plans, which is very important, especially considering today's situation. Nobody wants to go for long-term commitments. And this is across for all maritime services. And we also have, as a standard in our CPRO packages, we have unlimited plan packages, data packages where once you reach that particular data limit, we still keep the connectivity online, which means to say the customer doesn't have any invoice shocks or no huge bill shocks. So it's very easy for budgeting. And one more key aspect is the affordability part, which is to ensure we deliver very cost effective yet a feature rich solution in every target market that we serve. So the Thuraya Marine Star is one of the latest such examples that has received an overwhelming response. So our main goal is not to be different, but our drive is to ensure that we tick on all the key boxes that are most important for our customers and their partners.
So if there was a crew member from Manila, for example, with a personal cell phone, would it make sense for them to take the cell phone SIM card and put it in the Thuraya device? Would they get?
As a use case, technically, yes, it is possible, provided they have a global roaming agreement with Thuraya. So definitely they can have a local number anywhere offshore, like they never left home. Yeah.
I guess the roaming agreements get so complicated because there's so many different deals available and you have to work out the cheapest one, isn't
absolutely,
it?
Absolutely. That's again an onus on Thuraya, and we manage that for our customers. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, if we go to this question from Sushant Hipparaj, your thought on the application for commercial maritime vessels like bunker tankers. So I think that's also about how it compares with other offers like Iridium, Inmarsat. I don't know if you...
So, yeah, I mean, the first and foremost thing is when you talk about bunkers and tankers, it all depends on their sailing patterns. So if in case they are sailing under the Thuraya coverage, definitely they could reach out to any of our key maritime partners. And if in case there are fleets, we could even give them custom packages. It's all about flexibility, which we offer to our partners. So we are a very nimble organization. We understand the challenges that the seafarers face, the maritime companies face, especially when you talk about bunkers and tankers. They are usually most of the time managed by ship management companies who want to ensure that they give a peace of mind to the owners of the ships, but then they also have to manage the operational costs. So we understand all these challenges, and we have designed our portfolio according to whatever is required out there.
Oh, that's great. And we've got one question that somebody has entered twice. He's so keen to hear the answer about GMDSS. I don't know if it's if you follow the Global Maritime Distress and Safety Systems. Is that something?
Yes, I think Jassem would be able to discuss on that as well.
Thank you, Ricky. As you can see, GMDSS is more of a global service, and of course the requirements are defined within the International Maritime Organization. So this used to be sort of a monopoly by one operator, and now I think we have a second entrant into the GMDSS, which is of course helpful for the overall market, and hopefully this will pave the way for a third and hopefully a fourth operator to come into and offer GMDSS. I think for GMDSS, because Thuraya has a regional footprint, we're not having the coverage of the Americas region. We'll have to either work on sort of looking into a regional version of GMDSS, or we go global. So one of the two options. Certainly, we have worked with the IMO and have attended some of the IMO meetings to explore how we can do that. But there is nothing firm today that we're going to offer GMDSS. But this is something that is on our radar, and we are exploring it.
Yeah, Kumar Sundaram, who's the IT manager of Anglo Eastern in Singapore, is asking about your coverage. I know you had it in the first slide. I don't know if you missed it, but it's quite important about the whole story. So maybe would you like to just go over the coverage area once more, or go around the African coast and out to Australia?
Yeah, so basically with the two satellites, we'll cover 2/3 of the world, around 160 countries. Like I mentioned earlier, we don't cover the Americas region, but the rest of the world is covered with the two satellites. And I think we'll make the presentation available, and the audience will be able to see the coverage map, whether under the satellite footprint or what is enabled through the GSM roaming agreements.
It kind of quite close to the coast, as I remember from the map. So the open ocean you don't cover, but it's sort of 100 miles from the African coastline on the western and eastern side, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not. I don't have the exact figures for how many miles off the coast, but I think that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Should we try Ahmed's question at the top here? So he's asking, how long do you save the tracking data in your system? So if in case he wants to export the information another month later, is that something somebody would like to answer?
Yeah, I mean, if I understood Ahmed's question correctly, I mean, as I mentioned before, we are venturing into developing a software platform for tracking and monitoring. So if in case he subscribes to it once it is launched, then on standard, we would store the tracking information for a year, unless and until there is a specific project or a specific requirement which defines otherwise.
Oh, sounds great. Yeah, so yeah, Moman Bargat is saying, yeah, ship crew can use their own SIM card and their phone, and if they use it on land, and so this is a comment about different options available for crew there, I think, isn't it? So, yeah, no, that sounds very interesting, isn't it? And we had a question also sent by Kumar Syndrome in advance, whether it works with Zoom and video conferencing and Microsoft Teams. I don't know if your bandwidth is good enough for video conferencing, but is that something anybody would like to answer?
Yeah, so we are agnostic to what are the requirements on board, because we provide the data pipe under our coverage and through a resilient network. So most of the fancy tools, I would say, or the data compression and it making it more optimized for the requirements is managed by our service partners. And that is clearly evident with some of the instances where we have seen a lot of ship owners use these smart boxes through our partners, and they are using the rest of the video chats as well. So I'm not sure whether they're using Zoom or any other specific applications, but it depends on the end user requirement and the optimization from the smart box. So it could be possible.
Yeah, actually, there are some external companies out there that are making modulators and demodulators for video conferencing over low bandwidth. We use them a lot on land for remote workers who are for oil and gas, for instance, and utilities. They have a lot of applications where they use that service, a video service, to be able to diagnose. So there are a couple of companies out there that have created these products. We're under test at the moment of one of the better ones. So yeah, there are lots of products out there that can help with that, but it's not a Thuraya product, obviously.
Yeah, and have we covered the value-added services, Ricky? I think we were talking before about value-added services on top of Thuraya for maritime. Is that something?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Carl. In fact, I think we were already venturing into that area. So what we have seen is over the past year or so, we have taken a small leap into providing a value-added service for mainly tracking and monitoring requirement, which is basically based on Thuraya Marine Stack. So this only came into being due to several requests from the partners to further support them for specific projects. All right. So the launch is expected soon, and the announcements will be done shortly as well. However, we see that we also have witnessed that Thuraya has already several third-party certified solutions that are the rest of the partners can have access to. So they range from data optimizers to encryption applications to even video streaming, as one of the attendees requested, and surveillance solutions. And even I think Momen also clearly pointed out that we also have a very good solution, which is a GSM Onboard Solution, where you can use your typical normal handset over a data pipe over Thuraya, and you need a third-party a nano BTS solution just to integrate it, and that's it. It's a very simple, easy to install terminal along with our data terminal, and you can use even your local numbering, but again, roaming over Thuraya network. So the details are already available on our website for an easy access for both our partners as well as end users. We also encourage, as Jassem said, that and other new third-party developers, which could be preferred by end users, to undergo our certification program. So this is to create a positive atmosphere for not just our partners, but give a peace of mind even to the shipping community, knowing that they have a preferred value-added service partner, say, for example, Zoom, serving over our strong value proposition, the Maritime network.
Oh, and something we haven't talked much about is the cost. There was a question sent in by Edward Hag from Adonis saying, is the cost of satellite communications going down? I know it's normal in public forums, people don't want to mention specific prices, but just as a general direction of travel, is that something you'd be happy to talk about in public? Do you think if the price is going down per minute? Or But maybe you don't want to answer that one. It looks like stroking your chin.
I'm looking to Jassem.
Maybe we can't.
I think yes, in general, that
In general, yes.
Yeah, things will change, and you have to also understand that some of the operators don't want to focus on certain markets. So, for instance, Thuraya is very keen to look at the smaller fishing vessels that are regional because of our coverage, etc. But because of that, we are able to price that right for those kind of markets. So it's a different aspect for each market. But yes, the price has come down, but that's also, you know, dependent on the market you're going into. So I'm sure the likes of Maersk wouldn't pay the same price as a small fleet owner in Indonesia, for instance. It would be a different service and a different product. So yeah.
Okay. Would anybody like to answer the question from Berger Hilliard? So, I mean, Berger is asking about how you compete with Intelsat with 60 centimeter terminals. I imagine the answer is your terminals are much smaller than 60 centimeters. So even if their price is better, yours is a lot more convenient and useful to use. Is that the answer?
I think there are two folds to this. One is that we are within the L-band and MSS and high mobility sort of market segments. So there are specific market segments that we target with our terminals, and of course the pricing for the hardware and the services is different when it is compared with the FSS or the HTS operators. But the second part is that we also have, as part of our portfolio, VSAT Plus service, which is done in collaboration with ITC Panasonic. So we leverage that relationship to offer a combined L-band and KU service offering to our customers and our service partners, which gives them the benefit of both worlds. And Ricky, I think you can provide more details.
Yeah, that was unmute. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Jassem. We do offer our VSAT Plus services, which is again an integrated solution served through our master distributor. So our current offering is based on terminals which are 80 centimeters and above, because we see that the requirement out there, at least in terms of KU band, is more on the higher bandwidth, especially which we serve in terms of offshore. As you are aware, because of the Thuraya coverage because of the coverage of Thuraya, we do provide global coverage on the KU band, but on the L band we provide the backup based on Thuraya coverage only. So our majority of our target customers are purely offshore, which do require a higher bandwidth. So so our offering starts from 80 centimeters and above. And if in case the use cases become more, if the business justifies it, then definitely we'll be looking into 60 centimeters as well.
Oh, we haven't mentioned about the pricing structure. Is it all you have price per kilobit, or is it all per minute, or is it a mixture, or does it depend on the?
Yeah, so in terms of the pricing, at least for the L-band part, we price it per MB, per megabit. Okay. So so that's how our structure is in terms of pricing, and of course the voices per second, and the GMPRS service is again price per speed.
Yeah, so you could use it if somebody had some sensor they wanted to send data home with without going through the main shipboard network. They could do something like that if it was just sending a little ping of data every day or something like a fuel level or something like that. Was that a?
Yeah, I mean, as mentioned before, we have several use cases starting from the lowest use cases, which use hardly 10 MBs or 5 MBs, towards even going up to like 20 or 30 GBs. So what we have done is, and this is again a standard that we offer, we don't need to have special contracts with the Thuraya as partners. We provide unlimited packages as well. So we provide 1 GB, 5 GB, 15 and 30 GB, which is throttled down after the data packages are reached. And this is something which is heavily used by our partners, you know. So this gives, and especially with their smart boxes, they could do very innovative things even on a throttle down speed. So like emails, the basic solutions can be used, or applications could be used. So as a value add, I think most of the creativity, at least for the end users in terms of applications, done by our partners, and we enable them through the data pipe and of course affordable solution.
Yeah, well, the partners is something. There's lots of sort of connectivity companies like WorldLink and Marlink active in maritime that act as sort of intermediaries between shipping companies and satellite companies. Do you work with these companies, or do you only deal direct to customers?
Yeah, we in fact Marlink is one of our key partners, and we do have our other companies as well. In fact, the list of service partners is quite extensive and is available on our website. So depending on the region the end users work in or they operate in, they could definitely reach out to our partners locally, and we could serve them indirectly. In fact, that is the distribution philosophy of Thuraya, and that's something which is a good thing for our partners, that we do not go direct. We always work through our partners, and if in case they have specific projects, we definitely support them with that as well, with whatever is needed.
Oh, Jassem, you've put a note on this last question. You'd like to answer it live. Are we going to see Thuraya T5 and T6? I don't know. Does that mean you'd like to answer the question?
Yeah, actually, the Thuraya 4 MGS and the contract that we have with the Airbus Defence and Space, the contract actually includes an optional satellite, so it's a 1+1 sort of contract. And the additional or the optional satellite is really to be Thuraya 5, which is supposed to be the replacement for Thuraya 3, covering the Asia Pacific region. Now, as you know, Carl, Thuraya 3 was launched later to Thuraya 2, so it has longer useful time compared to Thuraya 2. So we're not in a hurry to make that kind of decision. But actually, this is under the works today. We are working hard on it so that we can exercise this option with Airbus soon.
Oh, that's great. And Kumar Sundaram is asking about other ideas of value-added services. So giving weather services to the ships, and I don't know what position services to the ship would be, but is this something you would do, or you'd look for partner companies to do, sort of building sort of software tools and information tools on top of Thuraya, do you think?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we do have a certification program, and it depends on every end user what kind of services they prefer. So if in case a ship owner or even seafarers, they want to have a specific solution that they want to have access to and being transmitted from our data terminals in Maritime, we can definitely look into certifying them. And of course, as I mentioned, we do have an extensive technology team who support in the certifications. They do a lot of regression testing. They support us a lot. And of course, our main goal is to not just provide a pipe, but ensure that all the requirements of the customer are taken care of. So we can definitely help in certification.
Well, I don't know if you're going to want to answer either of these two questions on the board here. Moman is asking, are you going to reduce the price? So Mohammed is asking, would you reduce the cost if it was a safety issue involved, like giving telemedicine to somebody at sea? I don't know if would you like to answer either of those questions, do you think?
Yeah, so regarding the airtime cost and what we have done during the pandemic. So actually, we've done quite a number of activities and initiatives during the COVID-19 pandemic. We did provide terminals to a number of agencies and partners to support with the mission relief operations. These were provided at free of cost. Airtime prices were provided at high discount levels to support the activities, and specifically related to the NGOs, the non-governmental organizations sector. So a lot of that has been channeled through our service partners. We also have agreements with, for example, the International Telecommunication Union, where we provide hardware at no cost, and also discounted airtime rates to support the activities during emergencies, relief operations, and the pandemic is one example where this could be used, but there are lots of other examples where NGOs have taken benefit of such arrangements.
Oh, great. Now, David Turner is asking something you haven't mentioned, the actual time when these new phones will come out. Is that something you're not able to mention now, or are you able to give a rough idea?
No, I mean, the Thuraya 4 satellite is supposed to be launched towards the end of 2023 and being ready and service by early 2024. Of course, the whole network around it will be available by that time. So all the new products, the services will be available with the commercial launch in early 2024. Now, some of the services, some of the products are planned to be available earlier because they can work on the existing fleet of satellites that we have. So they can become available around maybe 2022 or 2023, depending on the contractual arrangements with the vendors. Today, we have RFPs for the next generation service platforms in the industry. We have already received the responses from the vendors, and we already have done the evaluation, and we're sort of going to go into the BAFO stage, the best and final offer. We also have similar RFPs for the next generation products. It has been released to the industry. We've received the responses from a large number of vendors, and the evaluation is happening right now for the responses. So everything is on track in terms of the platform and the product streams, and hopefully this will be concluded by early next year, so that we have the contractual obligations and the development all put in motion.
Okay, and I have two more questions, which I don't think you'll want to answer, but I'll see anyway. They're both from your competitors, actually. We had a question from Inmarsat saying, do you have plans to cover Americas? And a question from IEC Telecom of which regions do you think there's more potential for Thuraya solutions? I don't know if you'd like to give any thoughts. I guess it's going into the secrets realm, so you probably don't want to, feel free not to answer it.
Ricky or Martin, do you guys want to answer the second question? I'll take the global coverage one.
Okay.
The easy one.
Yeah, Martin, you can go ahead. I think you're ready.
Sorry, what was the question again, Carl? Sorry.
A lady from IEC was asking, which region do you foresee more potential for Thuraya Maritime Solutions? That's one of your competitors asking now.
Yeah, that's fine. And I think we're seeing a lot of interest in Asia. There's a lot of regulation going into Asia. As I mentioned in the presentation, there's a hell of a lot of control wanted there. That's one of the key areas. You look around Taiwan, Vietnam, etc., and Indonesia, Malaysia. There are lots of islands, lots of fishing, lots of small vessels. That's one of the key areas. We're seeing quite a lot of growth in West Africa as well, where there's a lot of fishing again, and there's some oil and gas there that we're seeing some interest in maritime products as well. So there's a lot of, it's obviously a lot of coastal areas, but it seems to be most of the growth where the smaller vessels are right now, where they want more control. And they're hitting the wall of regulation that hits the big guys first and then hits the smaller guys later on. But from one of the examples I gave earlier about the regulator in the UK, they're forcing their suppliers to meet regulation of their own, not necessarily governmental. So it's really hard for the fishing vessel owners at the moment. And a low-cost solution like we have that provides all the data and information they need to be able to present that and overcome those issues is a very quick and economical solution to use. So mostly Asia and West Africa. Yeah.
Okay. Jassem, did you want to say anything about global coverage plans or not?
Sure. So definitely we want to focus on the regions and the markets, market niches where we have a strength or where we see the potential and smartly capitalize on them. Our building blocks remains a resilient local and regional business where a customer in a specific niche market like Africa and Asia sees benefit for. Now, certainly if there is an option or a potential solution for the global coverage, we will pursue it. This is something that has been on our radar. We do not have a concrete plan today that is under execution to have the global coverage. But with the launch of T4 and subsequently T5, we'll have more assets in the space, and those assets could be utilized to expand the coverage. But we're also looking for meaningful partnerships that can enable us to go and have global coverage.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Well, I think we're at the end of our session now. I think we've learned a great deal about where Thuraya is going, your strategy, what it can do, and what we can expect over the next coming years. So thank you very much. And I'll pass back to Vida for the closing words. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carl. So we were sort of unpacking Thuraya Telecommunications Company in this webinar and learning more about their service. We're thankful for everyone submitting smart questions in advance and during this session. And of course, we're thankful for our guest speakers, Jassem Nasser, Martyn Hopkins, and D Souza for presentations and being open in a Q&A session, answering all the questions. So this Thursday, Carl and I will be here again, and we will have a conversation with applied satellite technology. We hope you will tune in again. Now, Digital Ship is logging off. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
everyone.
Bye. Thanks
Bye-bye.
all.